Everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about incorporating poetry into fourth grade language arts. Hi, I'm Jennifer. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. On my channel, we talk about all things fourth grade, homeschool, raising an only child, and just enjoying this journey. If this interests you, just please hit that subscribe button and hit the bell so you'll be updated on when new videos come out. But today I want to talk about incorporating poetry into language arts for fourth grade. So we had originally started with a Becca for the language arts program, and I love Abeka grammar. We stuck with the Abeka grammar, and we're really enjoying it. It's going great. We love it, but we did not stick with the Abeka spelling and poetry portion of the language arts, and part of that reason number one, we didn't stick with the spelling because we just needed something that wasn't total memorization. When we replaced spelling, we also replaced the vocabulary and poetry. And Abeka's poetry, they give you about 6 poems, and you're supposed to read those consistently. And then with all of that reading, you will have memorized those 6 poems and talk about the meaning and things like that. And quite frankly, my daughter thought it was boring. As soon as I picked up the Sandpiper and started reading it, she said, I read this last year. I don't want to do this. Do I have to memorize it? Isn't there more to poetry than this? And I thought, like big red flags, let's not make her hate poetry in fourth grade. So I said, well, let's see what else we can find. And so then I got some workbooks, and they just weren't fun. They were not fun. I came across a poem, said, "Sing me a song of teapots and trumpets." And it is an extremely funny poem. It's in this workbook, Poetry Lessons. And it starts off and it says, "Sing me a It says, "Sing me a song of teapots and trumpets, trumpots and tappets and tippets and taps, trippers and trappers and jelly bean wrappers and pigs in pajamas with zippers and snaps." And this poem is by N.M. Bodecker. She loved this poem. It was funny. She appreciated it. She thought it was great. She wanted me to read it every day. She tried to read it, and she thought it was funny that she was getting so caught up in the play on words and things like that. And so that was a great introduction for us to say, hey, wait a minute, we might not hate poetry. And then I found Evan-Moor, which I should have just gone to Evan-Moor to begin with. And I printed this off. This is the front of it. It is an ebook, and it's all about read and understand poetry for 4th through 6th grade. So it's an ebook. So I really only print out what we need for that week. But in this ebook, it's amazing because what they do is this ebook is separated by different types of poetry. For example, this one was wacky words, which she loved. And so for each poem, this one had the crocodile selection from the Book of Nonsense and then Jabberwocky. So for each one, we read the poem. We talked about what the poem meant. For the limericks, we talked about at the end of the poems, you do A if they rhyme, and then B. And so a limerick would be A, B, B, A. And then you really dissect the poem. And then a lot of times you get to write your own. And so she loved writing her own limerick. She thought that was a lot of fun. And this was poetry. And so now I have my daughter interested in poetry, and I have my reluctant writer writing. This is a win-win, right? So I have really loved this, and that is not a unique situation with this Evan-Moor ebook. We have loved it. We've loved it when we talked about emotion. You had water at one time where we were talking about emotion and the sounds with water and trying to figure it out. And then we talked about a runner and looking at the words that are describing the runner. And then she got to write her own poem about a gymnast, which she is very into gymnastics. So that's great because that was something that brought in her interest and into writing. And she did it immediately. She did not complain about it. And it was wonderful. It's actually one of the best things that she's written so far this year. So I was very excited to find this Evan-Moor ebook. Once my daughter was open to poetry, I wanted to find a book of poems that really interested her. And I discovered that it was very difficult to find an age appropriate book for fourth grade. Quite a few of the books that I found were too young for her or were too old for her. And so I finally found this Random House book of poetry for children. And this is a great mixture for us. It's got some of the longer poems, but then it has some of the shorter poems. It has poems just for different, it is separated into sections. So this is nature, you have the four seasons, dogs and cats, bears and bats, the ways of living things, children, children everywhere, city, oh city, etc. So there's different ways that it is separated, but then also it's separated. Look, I've been to the sandpiper. It still has a sandpiper in it, but so it's really good because you have nice, colorful illustrations, which my daughter likes looking at, and it has kept her very interested in poetry. So I was so thankful to find this book. So between this book, the Random House Book of Poetry, and the Evan-Moor Read and Understand Poetry for fourth through and the Evan-Moor Read and Understand Poetry for fourth and fifth grade, we have a great poetry foundation. Obviously, we pull in poems when they make sense with our curriculum. For example, when we were studying in U.S. history, we were studying Paul Revere, and so we pulled in Henry Wadsworth Longfellow's The Midnight Ride of Paul Revere, or I think it's actually called Paul Revere's Ride, but we pulled that in, and so she had an appreciation for it. She was excited to learn the first couple stanzas of the poem, and so I was so excited that we were able to incorporate poetry into our language arts in a way that she enjoys learning it. So I hope that this has given you some ideas. Again, if it hasn't, just disregard, because we're all individuals and we all have individual homeschools. And everyone learns in different ways. You have different learning styles and different teaching styles. So I hope that this has given you some ideas, and I hope that you are enjoying poetry in your homeschool. Have a great day.